A woman's body can be right in front of you and still be miles away, because her true surrender doesn't start when you touch her, but when you make her want to be touched by you. That's the part most men never understand. You can have strength, experience, a lot of money, but if you don't know how to turn on her mind, touch her pride, her hidden zones of desire, you'll never truly make her surrender. And I'm not just talking about the physical act. I'm talking about making her remember you, making her want you, making her stay, even when you're not around. Today, I'm going to show you the 7 key places you need to touch if you want to awaken something deeper than just pleasure. I'm Celia, and this isn't a video for beginners or for the desperate. It's for mature men like you who are ready to own the game with a clear mind, clean desire, and real stoic power. Stick around, because what you're about to learn today could change the way you seduce forever. Have you ever wondered why a woman can look at you for minutes and still feel absolutely nothing? Or worse, why she can stay with you, sleep with you, even say she loves you, and still be empty inside, disconnected, distant? Some men live with a woman for years without ever really touching her, and I don't mean her body, I mean her attention, her desire, her soul, because a woman can open her legs and still close her mind. And when that happens, it doesn't matter what you do with your hands, you won't move anything inside her. You're at the first point of this video, and we're going to talk about something that seems simple, but very few men truly master: the way you look at her. Yes, I'm not talking about seduction techniques or strategic touches. I'm talking about something deeper: your gaze. Because if you don't know how to hold her eyes, calmly, firmly, with that blend of confidence and restrained desire, then you've already lost from the first second. Your gaze is the first touch. And if you don't get that right, you've already lost. Let me tell you something that might make you uncomfortable. Most men over 50 look like they're asking for permission. Or worse, like they no longer feel they have the right to desire. Heads down, quick to look away, unable to hold a silent moment with their eyes without feeling guilty. And do you know what a woman feels when she sees that? That you've already given up. That your masculine energy is gone. And even if she respects you, she won't desire you. Because desire doesn't come from what's right. It comes from power. And the first power is communicated without words, in how you look at her. Some time ago, a 68-year-old man told me something I'll never forget. He said, "Celia, after my divorce, I realized I looked at women like a child waiting for approval. I had never held a gaze with intention. I was always shy, evasive, cautious. And then I understood why no one ever chose me." You know what changed for him? He started looking without fear, observing like someone who knows his worth, letting his eyes say what his mouth didn't need to repeat. "I'm here, I see you, and if you see me too, you'll know it." Because a woman in her mature years doesn't give herself to the body she likes most. She gives herself to the man who looks at her like he already knows what he wants from her, and isn't afraid to take it. But that doesn't mean being crude. It means being clear. It means that when you look at her, you don't do it like you're waiting for her to decide. You look at her like you've already decided, but have the patience to wait for her to feel it too. Because when a woman senses that, when she feels you can hold her gaze without asking for anything, without justifying yourself, without showing anxiety, that's when she starts to wonder what else you can hold. And that's where desire is born. So before thinking about her body, the perfect words, or the right moment, check yourself. How are you looking at her? Like a whole man, or like an invisible one? Because if your gaze has no presence, everything else will fall apart. And the worst part is, you won't even notice. You'll think she's cold, that she doesn't want you, that she's not interested, when in reality, the truth is, you never knew how to touch her without touching her. And that's the real difference between the men who make her surrender and the ones who only dream about it. If your gaze has no presence, nothing begins. But if you stop at her eyes and never move toward where she really holds her tension, you won't get anywhere either. A woman can hold your gaze and even smile at you, but if her body doesn't react when you're near, if she doesn't feel a real vibration at the slightest touch, it all stays in the realm of illusion. That's why we've arrived at the second key point of this video, her neck and the base of her ear. This area isn't just erogenous, it's emotional. It's where her vulnerability meets her need to be taken gently. If you know how to touch there with care, rhythm, and intention, you'll awaken a bodily memory that many women have had dormant for years. Because this is where unresolved tension lives, where the craving for contact that never came settles, where the nostalgia for a pleasure she's not even seeking, yet won't be able to ignore if it shows up, resides. From a psychological perspective, there's a clear explanation. The neck is an exposed area. A woman who lets you close to it is trusting you. More than that, she's opening a non-verbal channel of surrender. She's not saying do it, but she's also not pulling away. She's waiting for you to read that emotional crack. And if you get it wrong, if you rush, if you're clumsy, if your hands are too eager, she'll shut it down. But if you get it right, with a mix of firmness and respect, you'll see her breathing change, her posture shift, even her tone of voice will transform. The Stoics said power isn't in what you do, but in how you choose to do it. And that applies here in a profound way, because a man who knows how to touch a woman's neck calmly, without urgency, without needing an immediate outcome, shows more control than someone who goes straight to the body like a man starved. Self-control is seductive, and in this area, that control becomes almost irresistible. She feels it in how you approach, in how you don't rush, in how your energy doesn't invade, but surrounds. What's most fascinating is that this part of the body is often overlooked. Even in long-term relationships, it gets touched in passing, kissed quickly, but no one lingers there. No one explores what really happens when a woman is seen and touched in that spot as if it were the very center of her universe. And when you do it, when you choose to go slower but deeper, when you turn every touch on her neck into an emotional release, she begins to open doors she didn't even know were closed. So I'll tell you plainly, don't underestimate this area. Don't touch it on autopilot. Touch it like someone who knows exactly what he's doing. Like a man who doesn't need to speed things up because he already owns the moment. Because he knows that if he touches that spot right, she'll start to let her guard down. She'll begin to trust, to desire. Not because you're asking her to, but because her body will start asking for you. And when that happens, she's no longer the one in control. You are. And that's where the real game begins. If your gaze connects with her, and your presence at her neck opens her up, then the next step is crucial. Because this is where her body starts speaking for her, even if her mouth stays silent. We've reached the third point of this video, and here's where things really begin to change. Her lower back. That area most people ignore, that few know how to touch, but that holds more emotional tension than you can imagine. It's not just a center of physical desire, it's a reservoir of stress, weight, exhaustion, and also of pent-up pleasure that hasn't found a way out. Touching a woman's lower back isn't a technique, it's a statement. You're telling her you can hold her, that you don't just desire her, you can carry what others don't see. Most men go straight to the body they want to possess, not to the body that needs to be freed, and that's the difference between a man who excites and a man who transforms. When you slide your hands along her lower back with firm, slow intention, without anxiety, she feels it throughout her entire body. Because you're touching a place where her deepest emotions converge. Practical psychology talks about somatic containment centers. These are areas of the body where what hasn't been put into words gets stored. The lower back is one of them, especially in women who've been in relationships where they had to carry everything on their own, hold on to guilt, routines, and silence. You don't need to know her story, but if you know how to touch that spot with the right energy, you can release what her mind hasn't been able to let go of. And that, listen closely, is a kind of intimacy no other man has ever given her. Here's the practical strategy. Don't come at it head on. Don't touch it like you're claiming something. Approach her from behind, like someone who's protecting her, like someone who knows her. Place your hand there firmly, but without rushing. Stay a few seconds. Say nothing. Just hold the contact and breathe with her. If you do it right, if your energy is aligned, you'll notice her body change. She'll relax, she'll sigh, she'll lean in, because in that moment, You're not touching skin, you're touching emotional weight. And when a woman feels that someone can ease that for her, she starts to want him without even knowing why. Let me give you an example. A 59-year-old man I worked with recently told me his wife had been physically distant for years. Nothing woke her up. Until one night, instead of going for quick touches, he simply sat behind her and placed both hands on her lower back. In silence, for minutes, just breathing. The next day, she came to him, and that night, after a long time, she gave herself to him. Because desire isn't born from contact. It's born from how that contact feels. And if you can make her feel relief before pressure, you've already crossed to the other side. Before we go on, if this content is opening your eyes, subscribe to the channel and leave a like. I'd love to know which country you're watching from. And if this point made you think of someone, leave a simple comment. I know what she desires. There are still parts of her body and mind that can change everything. And I'll warn you now, the last one isn't physical. But if you don't touch it, you'll never truly make her surrender. When you're able to touch her lower back like someone easing an old burden, she starts to open beyond the physical. Her mind lets go, her energy shifts. But it's right then, when you think you've got her, that many men make the most common and most destructive mistake, believing the body says it all, that if she let you touch her, let you kiss her, then she's completely yours. Nothing could be further from the truth, because there's one area that reveals more than any touch, and most men don't even notice it. I'm talking about her hands, or more specifically, the tips of her fingers. We're at the fourth point of this video, and it's time to talk about a silent mental trap, confusing intensity with connection. And we see it all the time. Men speeding things up, chasing more contact, more skin, more friction, without realizing there are places a woman only touches when she truly feels something. Her fingers are emotional antennas. She explores, reacts, and speaks through them, without words. If she's gently stroking your arm with her fingertips, if she takes your hand without being led, if her fingers reach for you beyond what the moment calls for, then yes, you're in. But if her hands are stiff, still, or absent, even if her body is moving, her mind isn't with you. The problem is, we live in a culture that undervalues everything invisible, where the subtle gets overlooked, but female psychology doesn't work like that. A woman who touches gently, who trails her fingers over your skin, who lingers on your hand, your wrist, your neck, is saying more than words ever could. And if you don't learn to recognize that signal, you risk falling into a false dynamic, believing you're creating desire when she's just playing out a script. And over time, that will break you down from the inside. The trap sets in a man's mind when he starts to believe that physical access equals emotional surrender. It doesn't. The body is often given out of habit, pressure, obligation, even gratitude. But her fingers, those only move when there's a real connection. They're the first to reach out when there's tenderness, when there's true surrender. And they're the first to close off when there's doubt or disconnect. You can be inside a woman and still not be truly chosen by her. And you'll know it by how she touches you, whether she seeks you with her fingers or just reacts to what you do. The consequences of missing this are serious because you feed an illusion. You go on believing you've conquered something when you've only been tolerated. And for a mature man, that's emotional poison. It doesn't just wear you down, it diminishes you, turns you into a supporting actor in a scene you thought you were leading. And when she leaves, and she always leaves when the connection isn't real, you're left feeling like you did everything right, but still weren't enough. So let me be clear. Pay attention to her fingers, to how she touches you, to whether she caresses you for no reason without being prompted. Because that's how you know whether you're touching her desire or just her skin. And if you can't see that difference, you'll keep losing, even when you think you're winning. We've reached the fifth point of this video, and this is where many men fall apart without even realizing it. Because after managing to connect through her gaze, her neck, her back, even her fingertips, when desire seems obvious, we arrive at the most misunderstood area of all, the inner thighs. And I'm not just talking about the physical space, I mean the deeper meaning of that access, what it represents emotionally for a woman when a man gets there without her pulling away, without tension, without feeling she has to protect herself. The most common mistake is thinking that once you've reached that area, you've already won. But no, this is where it's decided whether you're a mature lover or just a hungry teenager. Because most men at this point rush, they speed up, they get anxious, and that's when everything falls apart. She cools off, she disconnects, she starts to feel used, even if you never meant it that way. What many don't understand is that this area, more than physical, is symbolic. It represents her core, her center, and touching it without the right energy doesn't turn her on, it shuts her down. Psychologically, this is explained as a break in the emotional rhythm. When a woman's body is stimulated in order, with presence, with conscious touch, it naturally opens. But if you jump ahead too soon, you destroy everything you've built. And that jump isn't always physical. Sometimes it's energetic. She feels it in your breath, in your hands, in the way your rhythm changes, as if you're already counting the minutes until the end. That's when she loses interest. Not because she doesn't want you, but because you stopped being a man leading the moment, and became a man chasing the goal. The consequences of falling into this dynamic run deeper than you think. You don't just lose the moment, you lose respect, hers and your own, because she may give you her body once. But if she doesn't feel that you can hold the moment with composure, with clarity, with rhythm, she won't give herself again. And instead of realizing you moved too fast, you'll start doubting yourself. You'll feel like something in you isn't enough, that you no longer turn her on, that you've lost your edge. And that spiral of insecurity will eat away at your presence, your desire, your power. But this can be reversed, not with cheap tricks, not with empty lines. It's reversed with mindset, with control, with one clear idea in your head. The one who controls the rhythm, controls the scene. If you can touch that area calmly, without seeking, without urgency, just with the intention of making her feel, and then stop. Stop right when her body starts to respond, not to frustrate her, to intensify it, to show her that you decide when, not her, not impulse, not pressure, you. That's when she begins to trust. And when a woman trusts, she gives herself, not because she's pressured, but because she chooses to. Here the shift isn't in technique, it's in presence, in knowing how to be, in not rushing, in touching with respect, but also with desire. Because a woman can put up with many things, but never the feeling of being emotionally invaded by someone who couldn't handle the moment. So next time you're that close, that present, remember this: don't touch out of desire. Touch with direction, with clarity, with control. And if you do that, she won't just want you. She'll surrender, because she'll know she's with a man who doesn't need to rush, because he already owns the moment. If you can touch her thighs with control, if you stop right when her body starts begging without words, then you're no longer seducing with your hands, you're leading with presence. But this is where the biggest mistake happens, because many men think they don't need to say anything anymore, that the body speaks for itself, and they forget something every mature woman notices immediately. The sixth point of this video isn't touched with fingers, it's touched with breath. Yes, her breath, and yours. Because what a woman senses before any touch is how you breathe when you're close. If you're panting like a teenager, if your breath speeds up like you're barely holding it together, if your voice trembles or rises in pitch, you've already lost. But if you slow your rhythm, if you speak more slowly, if your breath brushes against her neck with calm, if every word becomes a pause that makes her breathe with you, then you're touching her without touching her. You're guiding her without invading. You're building a tension no rushed man could ever create. Picture it. You're standing in front of her. Silence. Dim light. Your voice is low. Your movement steady. She's waiting for a gesture, a touch, something. But you do nothing. You're just there. Breathing slow, steady, present. Like a man who doesn't need to rush because he knows exactly what he's creating. She starts to sync with you. Without realizing it, she begins to match your pace. Her breath deepens, her gaze shifts, and suddenly, you're not just a body in front of her. You're an anchor, a center, a calm force in a life full of noise. But if you don't master this, if you let your breath reveal anxiety, fear, urgency, she'll notice. No matter how much you say you're fine, she'll feel it in your energy. Because breath doesn't lie. If you're nervous, it speeds up. If you're unsure, it stumbles. If you're desperate, it shakes. And all of that transfers, not through words, but through presence. And when a woman senses that you can't hold the moment with your breath, she starts to pull away. Not because she doesn't want you, but because she starts to lose trust. Staying trapped in this lack of awareness is what's led many men to lose everything without knowing why. It's not that they didn't touch her right, it's that they didn't know how to breathe with her. They couldn't hold the silence, the timing, the tension. So she left, or worse, she stayed, but stopped responding, stopped feeling, stopped admiring, because a man who doesn't master his breath can't master anything, not his desire, not the moment, not himself. That's why, every time you're with a woman, remember this. She'll hear you with her ears, but she'll choose you by how you make her breathe. Learn to lead that rhythm, to slow down when everyone else is rushing, to speak when the silence is full, to stay quiet when your eyes say it all, and most of all, to breathe like a man who doesn't need to prove anything because he's fully present. That's true seduction, and most men don't even see it coming. If you've mastered your breath, if your presence is stronger than your need, then you're no longer improvising. You're leading. You're making her feel, not because you're touching her, but because you're guiding her with calm control. But if everything you've learned until now doesn't lead you to this point, if you fail to understand what's next, then all of it falls apart. Because we've reached the 7th point of this video, and it's the most important one, her mind. The permission she'll never ask for, but that you must know how to awaken. A woman doesn't give herself through her body. She gives herself when her mind lets its guard down. When being with you doesn't just feel good, it feels inevitable. When she can't help thinking about you, wanting you, seeking you, even in silence. And that doesn't happen through sweet words or polished moves. It happens when you touch a part of her that few ever reach, her pride, her imagination, her inner world. Because if you focus only on the physical, you're like everyone else. But if you can awaken her mind, make her feel seen, challenged, inspired to imagine herself with you beyond the moment, then she begins to surrender. There are no formulas here, only truth, only presence. Just one question you need to ask yourself. What is she feeling when she's with you? Not what you're doing, not how you're moving, but what you're stirring. If you can make her feel desired, but also safe. If you can make her feel exposed, but not judged. If you can make her see herself in your eyes like she hasn't in a long time, then you've touched her where it truly matters, in her emotional core, in her identity as a woman. And from there's no turning back. Many men reach this stage of life full of fear, full of excuses, with a story in their head that says, I'm too old for this. But you know what? That story's a lie. You're not old, you're full of experience. The problem is, no one ever taught you how to use it. No one ever taught you that a woman isn't won over with force, but with direction. That it's not about doing more, but doing differently. Knowing when to be silent, when to look, when to touch, and when to step back so she's the one who moves forward. This point is the hardest, because you can't memorize it. You have to live it, embody it. And it begins the moment you stop acting like a man waiting for signs, and start being a man who creates them without losing control. Because when you touch her mind with your words, your silence, your way of being, she starts to surrender before you've even laid a hand on her. And for a mature woman, that is far more powerful than any physical touch. So the choice is yours. You can keep repeating old patterns, believing it's all about moving the right way. Or you can wake up. Realize that true power lies in your energy, in your clarity, in your ability to enter her mind and stay there. Because a body can be forgotten, a technique can be replaced, but a man who makes her feel desired and safe at the same time, he stays with her. even if it was just once. If you've made it this far, you're not like the rest. Most people stay on the surface, chasing pretty words, quick fixes, or comfort to avoid real change. But not you. You chose to hear what's uncomfortable, what challenges you, what places a simple but powerful truth right in front of you. If a woman doesn't surrender, it's not because she doesn't want to. It's because you still don't know how to touch her where it truly matters. And that isn't learned through age or luck. It's learned through presence, through clarity, through real masculine intention. Today, I showed you 7 zones of the body and the mind that can completely change the way you seduce. But none of them matter if you're still trapped in your old pattern, acting with anxiety, moving without direction, touching without understanding. That won't work anymore. Not if you want respect, not if you want true desire. And above all, not if you want to feel like a complete man, strong, wanted, and decisive. Change isn't easy, but it starts now, and it's entirely up to you. Drop a short but powerful phrase in the comments. I lead with wisdom, and let me know what country you're watching from, because no matter where in the world you are, if this spoke to you, then you're already part of something bigger. I'm Celia, and this is House of Wisdom. This channel doesn't exist to entertain. It exists for men who are tired of being ignored, manipulated, or dismissed, and who are ready to reclaim their desire, their respect, and their power. No excuses, no masks. Subscribe now, not to be another number. Do it because you know this space speaks the truth. Because what you heard today might be exactly what another man out there needs to hear. Share it, and don't go just yet. The conversation isn't over. 2 videos are about to pop up on your screen. Pick the one that makes you the most uncomfortable. Because right there, in the discomfort, is where your transformation begins.